What will happen with a father who left his son, he says he forgot he was there, inside of a hot car? Fox News legal analyst and former prosecutor Arthur Aidala joins us now. So this is a pre-trial hearing that you have going on here. Do you think this case goes to trial? This
is basically to consider how much bond, how much bail. Do we let him out? Is there any amount of money? The judge could say, I don't care if you put up $1 billion, I'm not letting you go home because I think you're a flight risk. I think there's a chance you're not going to come back and face these charges. Do I think this case goes to trial? It seems like it is positioned that way. You have him saying, listen, maybe he admits I was sexting, my wife and I had a bad relationship, and there was a $25,000 insurance policy on my child. That is not going to motivate me to kill my 22-month-old child. The prosecutors are going to say, you researched surviving in jail, you researched killing a kid in a hot car. That's circumstantial evidence to show that you did it.
They're in a 5-minute recess now. Our viewers may have seen people filing out of the courtroom just then. Arthur, I want to ask you about some of the things we learned today. You mentioned the sexting. Today, from one of the detectives, we heard that the defendant had been sending naked pictures of himself to several women, up to 6 women. We can't even go into detail here on the air during the daytime or probably any time about what he was taking pictures of. Potentially, from our own Jonathan Hunt, we've been learning that it's been reported that some of the people who received the pictures might have been underage.
And that would go through, this is going to be what I would call a connect the dots type of prosecution at this point. There's not going to be any fingerprints. There's no smoking gun. This isn't much like a what happened. We know what happened.
Sure.
This is, what's the motive? Is there an intent to kill, or is this a negligent act? So is this what we would call criminally negligent homicide? He should have remembered that his child was in the car, and the fact that he did not remember is so egregious that it's criminal, and he should go to jail for like 1 to 3 years. Or did he intend to kill the kid? It's a premeditated thing, and he should go to jail for life.
Yeah, you touch on something, that forgetfulness, and that's been my big question today. Can you plead forgetful like you do insanity? Can you prove you're forgetful?
I think that's where all of the evidence comes in. So you would have a long trial where friends and relatives and photographs like we just saw, everything would come in and say, like, is this the parent who would intentionally kill someone? Don't forget, the burden is on the government. The government has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt he intended to kill him, versus he doesn't have to prove I forgot about it.
All right, web developer who was working with Home Depot. We just saw his friend on the stand, and now he's wrapped up. They're in this mini recess. I want to go back to Jonathan Hunt, who's in our newsroom here in New York, who's gathering some fresh details. Jonathan, what can you tell us?
Yeah, they were talking to James Holt, that friend and business partner, essentially about Justin Ross Harris's character. The defense said, do you believe he was a good father-son relationship? James Holt said, absolutely. Do you believe he was a loving father? Absolutely. Do you believe he loved his son? Absolutely. He said it all the time. Then the prosecutors questioned James Holt, the friend. They said, did you know he chatted, sexting with these women? Would that surprise you? James Holt replied, yes. The prosecutors simply said, then you don't know everything about your friend, Mr. Harris, do you? That question was left hanging in the courtroom, Harris.
Jonathan, thank you. I want to come back here to Arthur, who's on set with me. You know, when we first learned of this case and this child who had died, and you heard the witnesses saying that the father was wailing, I want to go back to what you said just before the commercial break with what those witnesses described that father. Why is it so critical to you that they put cuffs on this man right after his child was found dead?
It just doesn't make sense to me. Look, Harris, I was a prosecutor for a bunch of years in Brooklyn, New York, when things were really tough crime-wise, and I've been a defense attorney. I've seen probably thousands of these scenarios. I've never heard of a hysterical parent under these circumstances being described, the scene that we heard, handcuffed and thrown to the floor because they wanted to go see their child who was clearly in distress, about to die.
It makes you suspect something else was going on? Maybe
they knew, maybe they had some idea beforehand. I don't know.
Stay with us here on the deck. We're continuing to follow this.